The first night I slept in my new apartment, my keys mysteriously appeared on my pillow. They didn't disappear. They weren't stolen. They were just there, inches from my face. And worst of all, I lived alone. I was 25 and had just rented my first place, an old building with noisy elevators and hallways that took a while to light up, but it was mine. The owner warned me, "If you hear strange noises, don't worry. The building is old, and try not to. Open the back closet." I ignored the warning. Big mistake. The first few days were pure euphoria. I decorated, organized, felt the freedom. But soon, small details began to unnerve me. A book I left on the table would appear in the bookshelf, my favorite mug stored in a drawer, my clothes folded on the bed, my shoes perfectly aligned. At first, I thought it was my tiredness, my disorganization, until one night I decided to do a test. I left a note with a glass on top. "If anyone comes in here, I need to know." When I returned, the glass was in another place, and below my sentence, a reply, "You are not alone." The owner's silence, when I asked him about the keys, was revealing. There are things about the apartment they never told you. I decided to investigate. A neighbor told me about Clara, the previous tenant. She lived there for 30 years. She was strange. She covered mirrors, put salt on the windows, and it was rumored she practiced witchcraft. I didn't believe in those things until I found the bag. Hidden behind the closet, an old black leather bag. Inside, photos of strangers, dried herbs, worn black candles, red threads, old coins, and a handwritten notebook. And what made me slam the bag shut? A list of names, the last one mine. At first I thought it was a macabre joke, but the notebook, it described rituals. They weren't instructions, they were records. When the new inhabitant arrives, the house will try to expel him. I thought Clara had written it, until I saw the date. On the last page, recent. Clara had been dead for 7 years. Things stopped being small. The moved objects became messages. One dawn, the closet opened slowly. I heard barefoot steps in my room. They stopped in front of my bed. I saw nothing, but I felt a presence. Then a whispering female voice. "He still has the key." I changed the lock the next day, thinking everything would end. That same night, I found an old key on the kitchen table. It wasn't mine. I began to suspect it wasn't Clara, but something else. Something that wanted me to leave. Something that used the house to communicate. Living in terror led me to install a camera. At 3:14 a.m., the camera recorded the truth. It wasn't a ghost. It wasn't a shadow. It was my neighbor. He had a copy of my key. He would come in while I worked, move my things, hide objects, leave messages. And the witchcraft bag, it was his. The police interrogated him. The bag belonged to Clara, his sister. He had used it to scare tenants, trying to get the apartment for himself. He had tried to buy it unsuccessfully and resort to terror. The story seemed closed until they reviewed the recordings. The neighbor appeared 2 weeks after my arrival. But 3 days after I moved in at 3:14 a.m., the camera showed the closet door opening by itself and a dark figure coming out. The recording lasted 5 seconds, then it turned off. They could never explain it. I left the next day. Years later, I still wonder who moved my things during the first 2 weeks when no one else had a copy of my key.